I wanted to include this recipe today because this is truly a traditional family recipe, and it's Nana Peg's recipe, and that's why I wanted to include it. When I make this, it brings back memories of her, picnics out at the lake on Sundays, or just Sunday night tea. We'd have sweets because Mum's got a sweet tooth and she likes sweets. So I'm making this for Mum today. The reason I never made it much when you kids were growing up is because it's got jelly in it, and as you know, your father is allergic to jelly. He won't eat anything with jelly in it. Another reason I never made it was because it's called Plonky trifle, and it has wine in it, and we grew up in a uniting church where alcohol was frowned on, so if I made it I had to make it non-alcoholic, which took all the fun out of it and took all the oomph out of it. It was very bland without it. So today I'm going to make an authentic Plonky trifle the way Nana would have made it, and these are the ingredients we'd need. To start off with, this morning I'm going to set a jelly. Now your jelly can be any flavour. It can be, she used to love port wine, which was like a purple coloured jelly. I hated the taste of it, but we're looking for colour when we're putting a trifle together. So I'm going to use a lime jelly today. So the first job for me this morning is to get this jelly set. This is a big enough bowl. I'm going to make the recipe according to the ingredients and the instructions on here, and set that, and once that's set I'll come back and I'll do the rest of the preparation. What we need for our trifle is the jelly, of course. We need a sponge roll. Now you can buy these readily from the supermarket. I'm also going to use extra jam rolls to put extra cake in the middle because Mum likes extra cake. We also need some jam. Now I'm using raspberry jam. You can use apricot, blackberry, any flavour you like. I also need some plonk. Now I'm using cream sherry because it's gentler than rum and not as strong as brandy, so I prefer the more subtle taste of a sherry. Sherry's getting harder and harder to find, but this is an Australian sherry. It's a cream sherry. I also need peaches. Now your fruit can be any fruit you like to put in there. It can be a fruit salad, it could be diced peaches and pears you can buy in tins. I wouldn't use pineapple on its own, it's a little bit too tart, but definitely your softer fruits that blend nicer. A little bit of pineapple every now and then would be fine, but it's going to cut with the alcohol and make it quite sharp, so you don't want that sharp texture. You really want it to just all blend in the mouth. And finally we're going to top it off with cream, and in the fridge I've also got a thick custard. Now Nana would be horrified to know I'm using pre-made custard. She'd want me to make my custard from scratch. But because we've got so many milk issues in this house, I've found that the thick double cream is suitable. So this is the double thick custard that I'm going to be using. I don't want a runny custard because that's going to make it harder to enjoy the texture if you've got one liquid that's running off your spoon when you're trying to eat the trifle. It's meant to be a firm sort of a sweet. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my jelly. Okay, for the benefit of the grandies who might not have made jelly before, or I think Americans refer to it as jello, we call it jelly. We tip our contents into a bowl and we add 1 cup of boiling water. Let's just come off the boil. Jelly crystals take quite a while to dissolve, so don't try and rush this stage by adding your cold water. Okay, so I'm not going to make you stand there and wait for 5 minutes while I keep stirring this, so I'll turn the video off at this point and I'll come back to you when I'm ready to add the cold water. Okay, the test to see whether your jelly has been dissolved is to use a metal spoon, pick it up and see if you can see any crystals left on the spoon, and that's very clear. So the last step I do to finish my jelly off is to add 200 ml of cold water. Now I'm going to leave a little bit at the end because I want this to be quite a stiff jelly. I want to be able to chop it when I've finished with it. I don't want it to be a soft watery jelly. So with that, it goes into the fridge, and later today when it's set we'll get on to the next part of the trifle. Part of the preparation we can do while we're waiting for our jelly to set is to whip our cream. So I'll do that now, and I'll show you what consistency it needs to be when I'm finished. Okay, we want it firm but not butter. I'm going to clean our beaters the Nanna way. And the next part of the preparation is we're going to drain our peaches. So we're going to cover this and pop it in the fridge till the jelly's ready. I choose to use Goulburn Valley peaches because they're tinned in Shepparton, which is where Lauren and Nathan grew up when they were little. That was our first parish in Berrigan. I used to do my shopping in Shepparton, so this has a family tie to us. So if I can, I'll always buy Goulburn Valley fruit because it's always really good fruit as well.
Or the SPC brand, which is Shepparton Preserving Company.
As you can see, there's quite a bit of juice in there. We're going to drain that off because we don't want the trifle getting too wet. The next part of our preparation is our sponge rolls. So I'm going to slice the big log that we had before into 1/2-inch slices. And then I'm going to take each slice and I'm going to put jam on one side of each slice. Trifle's always made best the day before because we're going to be soaking it in the alcohol. So I've buttered the main log and I'm going to place these around the inside of the bowl. Two in the bottom. Okay, next thing I'm going to coat it. You can see why it's called Plonky trifle. We're going to let that soak in for a little bit. It'll dry up. The sponge will soak all that up. It's about when you get the rest of the ingredients in, you'll see that it forms a pretty shape around the outside of your glass bowl. I've taken 3 of the jam rolls from the packet and I've cut them into 4. And I'm doing the same process with the little ones. So when we start layering the trifle, I'll be able to add these pieces in So there'll be cake in the middle of the trifle as well, won't be just on the outside. So everyone who has some trifle will be able to get some cake as well. These I'll let sit. I won't soak these ones just yet until I'm putting the trifle together. What I'll do is I'll get a little dish, pop some sherry in the bottom and sit these in it to soak. If you do that too early, the cake gets too hard to handle, it goes too soft. I'll just leave those to one side till we're putting the trifle together. Okay. Traditionally, Nanna's trifle would include sponge that's been soaked in the sherry with jam, the fruit, the jelly and the custard and the cream on top. Now sometimes Nanna would try a few variations. I remember once she put a few drops of cochineal in some coconut and tinted it pink and put pink coconut over the top of the trifle. Another time she used crushed nuts. Now in both instances I don't think that worked with trifle very well. So I've moved away from what Nanna would traditionally use, which is just the 4 elements that we've talked about, and I've included a few more. Mine will include the caramel that you get from the Nestle Top and Fill caramel in the tin, and it will also include some marshmallows just to finish it off. So, as before, I said we've cut up the jelly. Now that it's set, it's time to put all of the components together for this trifle. I'm going to start by adding some custard. In dollops, mostly to fill up those holes between the sponges, on the bottom only. Next I'm going to put some jelly in sections around the outside. Followed by some fruit. Now remember, when you're serving a jelly, people just go in with a big spoon and they just grab stuff from around the bowl. So it's important that you try and get your layers so that people who go in for a big scoop will be able to get a little bit of everything. I'm going to add some dollops of the caramel into those spaces. In the corners. I'm now going to add in to the middle of the trifle some of the cake. Some more of the custard. our layer with the jelly again. This time I want to get the jelly down into these spaces between the slices of cake so you can see the green from the outside. And in through the middle with the last of it. And then some marshmallows. Try and not let the marshmallows clag together, keep them separate. You don't want a really big mouthful of marshmallow when you're having your trifle. Finish off with your fruit. Last caramel. Scraper for this. And then finally we're going to top it with the cream, which I whipped earlier. Now for all of our grandies, that's Lily, Aaron, Scarlett, Isabel, Caleb and Everett, Zipporah and Raven, this is your great grandmother's recipe with a few inclusions of the caramel and the marshmallows from Nan. In the next series I'm going to be doing a few more of Nana's dessert recipes, the traditional ones. They're good for winter, and this one is definitely a summer one, and as it's summer over in the States right now, I thought this might be helpful for you, but we're still in our winter season, so I'm going to be doing some winter desserts shortly. Mum's just got to get through this trifle by herself. Once she's polished this off, I'll be doing the next dessert. In the meantime, I've got some slice recipes coming. I've got some more mains to do, and I look forward to sharing these with you. Now if you're a real cream freak, you could add a proper 600 ml of cream on the top. But for now, there you have it. Plonky trifle a la Nanna Peg. And there's a view of our trifle, Plonky trifle, ready to eat tonight. We've let it set in the fridge overnight to let those flavours go through, and it'll be ready to eat tonight.